Alright, good morning everybody. If I knew I would be the first to present, I would have chosen a different goal, but okay, anyhow. Gonna present on Millennium Development Goals. So let's just get right to it. Alright, so the United Nations Millennium Development Goals, or MDGs, are the 8 goals that all 191 UN member states have agreed to try to achieve by the year 2015, which includes the following 8 goals. I'm not going to go through it because you can see it in your booklet. The United Nations Millennium Declaration, which was signed in September 2000, committed world leaders to combat poverty, hunger, disease, illiteracy, environmental degradation, and discrimination against women. So all of the teachers have chosen one topic to discuss, so you guys should pay attention. Okay, so out of the 8 Millennium Development Goals, I'll go over goal number 1, which is eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. And there are 3 target indicators for this goal, and they are reduce by half the proportion of people living on less than $1 a day. And number 2, achieve full and productive employment and decent work for all, including women, young people, and marginalized. And number 3, reduce by half the proportion of people suffering from hunger. And on a side note, this goal has split into 2 more specific target goals with the intent to end global hunger and achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture in 2017. That's called a Sustainable Development Goal. So before we get into it, let's test your knowledge in global hunger. So what do you guys know about global hunger? I'm going to be asking you 5 true or false questions. You don't have to raise your hand, but if you get everything right, please let me know. Okay, I will probably get you guys some ice cream or whatnot. Okay, so number 1, true or false? People are hungry because the world does not produce enough food. True or false? Are you sure? Okay, this is false. The world as a whole produces enough food to feed every person every day. Okay. In fact, enough wheat, rice, and other grains are currently produced to provide each person approximately 2,700 calories a day. Of course, this is excluding meat, beans, vegetables, and fish. Now, question number 2. True or false? 10% of the people in the developing world do not have access to clean water. Okay? This is false. Actually, 30% of people in the developing world do not have access to clean water. 1 out of 3 people do not have safe and clean water for drinking, cooking, washing, and other daily activities that require water. Next question. About 9 million people are malnourished or hungry today. And just to give you an idea of how much 9 million people is, in the United States there's 326.8 million. Is this true or false? Okay. The answer is false. Okay. Over 900 million, not 9 million, people are suffering from hunger and malnutrition today. This is more than the population of the US, Canada, and European Unions combined. And next question. Malnutrition, I believe John teacher will talk about this more in detail. Malnutrition is a condition resulting from having not enough to eat and can lead to death. Is this true or false? Good, this is also false. Malnutrition can be a condition resulting from undernutrition. But it can also be a condition resulting from overnutrition, that is eating too much, especially food that is particularly unhealthy and lacking in necessary nutrients. So obesity is a form of malnutrition, and I will talk about that later on. Okay, True or false? Hunger can be overcome, okay, by distributing food from areas where there is surplus to areas where there is shortage. Okay? This is, of course, false. Redistributing food cannot solve the problem of world hunger. Merely giving surplus from one country to aid another country does not address the reason why there is a shortage of food in the country in the first to begin with. Food aid is necessary in emergency situations, say natural disasters. However, in non-emergency situations, hunger is best overcome when food insecure and hunger-prone regions develop food self-sufficiency, when they can learn to provide for themselves. So, significant and substantial progress has been made in meeting many of the target indicators by 2010, especially halving the number of people living in extreme poverty. And this goal was achieved 5 years ahead of the deadline in 2010. The deadline was 2015. However, hunger, global hunger, still remains a big challenge. Okay, so what have we learned? What worked with the Millennium Development Goals? We've learned that investing in techniques that enhance agricultural productivity, let's say food storage, water distribution, soil management, using tractors, employing all these different ideas and techniques, reduce hunger and improve the health and education status of the household. Probably the biggest determining factor in reducing poverty is education. I'm also not going to go deep into it because Erica teacher, right after me, will probably go over education, right? So here is the current progress towards the Millennium Development Goals. According to an analysis of the world performance across 17 United Nations development goals was assessed against 63 key performance indicators for all countries. And it found that much work is still needed to accomplish these development goals. So I'll show you with the pie chart. If you can see, first one is no poverty and second one is no hunger. And you can see only 18% has been fulfilled up to the target. And for hunger, only 2% has been obtained. 22%, 30%, 46%. Out of those, 22% has no data. And I'm assuming it's probably a substantial gap or a gap to the target value. Okay. And let's see, despite earlier extended progress, like I told you before, the number of people suffering from hunger has been on the rise since 2014. And between 2015 and 2016, roughly 40 million additional people were hungry. This is a very worrisome trend. Here's a closer look at that data. I don't know if you guys can see it in your workbook. An estimated 821 million people were undernourished in 2017. That is the same number as it was in 2010. So why is this increase in number happening? Okay, the situation deteriorated significantly in sub-Saharan Africa, where the number of undernourished people increased from 195 million in 2014 to 237 million in 2017. Sub-Saharan Africa remains the region with the highest prevalence of hunger, with the rate increasing from 20.7% in 2014 to 23.2% in 2017. In South America, the situation also appears to be worsening. This may be the result of an economic slowdown, which reduced fiscal capacity, or a state's ability to produce revenue for its public to protect the most valuable against rising domestic prices and loss of income, adverse weather, bad conditions affecting food availability and prices, and prolonged armed conflicts or wars are among the key drivers among these trends. Okay, this is the same data, okay, just written up on the table. Now, stunting and wasting in children are declining, but not fast enough to meet the development goal targets. Stunting is defined as inadequate height for age, and wasting is inadequate weight for height. So these put children at increased risk of dying from common infections. Stunting is also associated with poor cognitive development, which can have a negative impact on a country's long-term progress. Since 2000, the proportion of stunted children has been declining. However, 149 million under the age of under 5 years of age, that is 22% of the global under 5 population, were still chronically undernourished in 2018. That is a decrease of 2 million in 2017. Okay. Now, in the wake of conflict, climate-induced shocks and economic slowdowns worldwide, intensified efforts are needed to implement and scale up interventions to improve access to safe, nutritious, and sufficient food for all. Specifically, attention needs to be given to increasing the agricultural productivity and incomes of small-scale food producers, implementing resilient agriculture practices, and ensuring the proper functioning of markets. Okay. Now, the prevalence, actually, okay, there's also another form of malnutrition that is becoming a problem, which is overweight. Okay, the prevalence of overweight is increasing in all age groups. In 2018, childhood overweight affected 40 million children under 5 years of age. In 2018, prevalence levels were above 9% in Northern Africa, Southern Africa, Central Asia, and Oceania. Okay. Am I okay with the time?
Under 5.
Alright, so globally in 2016, let me go back here. Overweight affected 20.6% of children 5 to 9 years old, and 17.3% of adolescents, 207 million, and 38.9% of adults, which is 2 billion. Okay? So the promotion of healthy diet is central to putting a stop and reversing the obesity epidemic. And government has a range of policy options to choose to improve access to healthy and affordable diets. There's a hard policy and soft policy. Hard policy, a government can put a ban on specific type of food, and soft policy is trying to inform the citizens that certain food will cause obesity or it has negative impact on their diet. So what has worked with the Millennium Development Goals, and how can we reduce this global hunger? First of all, empowering small-scale food producers to participate fully in development is critical to improving food security and reducing poverty and hunger. Many small-scale and family farmers are very, very poor. Okay, they don't have the resources. They don't have, they don't have the resources to continue producing enough crops, even to provide for their own family. And they face regular food insecurity. Not like us. Although we worry about what we're going to eat for lunch or for dinner, it's because we have too much of a selection. But these people, they always worry if they can make it through the day. So both the income and productivity of small-scale food producers are systematically lower than those of their larger counterparts. To strengthen the capacity of small-scale producers, it is important to help them improve their agricultural productivity. And how do we do that? We can enable them by managing their natural resources sustainably, help them adapt to climate change, and overcome barriers in accessing markets, financial services, information, and knowledge. So this is where also education comes. Okay, so steeply climbing food prices affect countries across several regions. This is also a huge cause for global hunger. Investment in the agriculture sector is critical for reducing hunger and poverty, improving food security, and creating employment and building resilience to disasters and shocks. However, government spending on agriculture in relation to its contribution to the economy fell between 2001 and 2017. And I'll show you with the graph. At the global level, or the Agricultural Orientation Index, known as the AOI, this shows you the share of government expenditure to agriculture divided by the share of GDP from agriculture. Just shows you how much government is spending on these individual farmers, small-scale farmers. Fell from 0.42 in 2001 to 0.26 in 2017. From 2015 to 2017, the average AOI was highest in Northern Africa and Western Asia, and lowest in Sub-Saharan Africa. So, over and over again, Sub-Saharan Africa seems to be the major problem or concern. Sub-Saharan Africa needs a lot of attention from the rest of us. So, the aid to agriculture is only a fraction of what it was back in 1980. And this is also becoming a big concern. The share of selector allocable aid to agriculture from member countries of the Development Assistance Committee of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development fell from nearly 25% in the mid-1800s to only 7% in 2017. A total of 12.6 billion. So in terms of money, you know how much that is. Now, I found this while doing research online. This is the updated version, actually most recent version of the current state of things. The state of food security and nutrition in the world as of today, 2019. Not today, but 15th of July, 2019. World hunger is still not going down after 3 years, and obesity, like I showed you in the graph before, is still growing. More than 820 million people are hungry globally. In Africa, the rates of people suffering from hunger are slowly on the rise. And climate, conflict, economic slowdowns are driving the rise. And 1 in 9 people are still suffering from hunger. 2 billion people are still moderately or severely have food insecurities. So you guys can read through the rest of them. Now, I want to end with this quote. It says, "There are people in the world so hungry that God cannot appear to them except in the form of bread." Okay. So just remember, first step of curing this problem is, I believe, is awareness. We need to be aware of what's going on in the world. Okay. There are more important things in the world than what we're going to wear, what we're going to do or eat for lunch. Okay? And also I want to share with you guys this quote. I believe it's from Gandhi. The earth is not a gift from our parent, but it is a loan from our children. So what do we do with the loan? Okay, we must give it back, right? We must take care of it. So extreme poverty rates have been cut since 1990. However, global hunger is on the rise, and our group especially, we must come up with an idea that we can implement to reduce global hunger. And like I told you before, just giving them food will not cure this epidemic. We must help them sustain themselves by providing economic support, agricultural, governmental support, and just as an individual, taking one step towards this goal will help in the long run. Okay, so let's try to end poverty and hunger everywhere by 2030. All right, thank you.